Hi everyone, I'm Miss Karen at Adams Memorial Library. Thank you very much for joining me for this week's book report. So the books I have for you this week, they're mostly illustrated biographies, but they're all about artists. And I think before we did books about making art, and these are books about people who were professional artists who did that for a living. So maybe it'll be some inspiration for you too. First one is called The Noisy Paint Box, The Colors and Sounds of Kandinsky's Abstract Art. And this is written by Barb Rosenstock, and the illustrations are by GrandPré. This one is another book by Barb Rosenstock and GrandPré, and it's called Through the Window, Views of Marc Chagall's Life and Art. Now I have two stories. One's more of an illustrated biography, and one's more an inspiration story about the artist Frida Kahlo. This one's called Frida Kahlo and Her Animalitos by Monica Brown, and the pictures are by John Parra. And this one is called Viva Frida, and the words and the pictures are by Yuyi Morales. Now, I'd heard of all of those artists before, but these next two are people I only learned about after I read the books. This book is called It Began with a Page, How Fujikawa Drew the Way. And the author of this book is Maclear, and the illustrator is Yuyi Morales. And this one, when I saw the cover, I thought, well, that looks like a book I would really like. I love all the color on it. And this book is called Mary Blair's Unique Flair, because Mary Blair was an artist who loved color. This one is written by Novesky, and it's illustrated by Brittney Lee. And the subtitle of this one, the second part of the title, first part is Mary Blair's Unique Flair. The second part is The Girl Who Became One of the Disney Legends. So turns out I didn't know, but I had seen Mary Blair's art before, and maybe you have too. So let me tell you a little bit more about these books. The Noisy Paint Box is about an artist named Vasily Kandinsky, and he was born in Russia. Here is a picture of his paint box. He was born in Russia, and he was taught to be a traditional Russian boy. So he took piano lessons. He had to just be quiet and listen to the grown-ups talk. He was a little bit bored. But then one day, his aunt gave him a box of paints. This paint box. And then he was intrigued, not only by the colors, but also because of the sounds. Now, when I look at a paint box, I see pretty colors, but I don't hear anything. Maybe you can hear, whoops, they're falling out. You can maybe hear the paints rattling, but that's not what Kandinsky heard. When he would mix the paints, he would hear crackles and booms and different things for every different color. And he loved playing with these colors and hearing the sounds. But when he said to his family, "Can you hear it?" they couldn't, and they thought he was just being silly. Well, now people think that Vasily Kandinsky probably had something that's not too common, but just a harmless condition called synesthesia, where sometimes when you see colors, you hear sounds. When you hear sounds, you see colors. Because when Vasily Kandinsky heard music, he would see colors. If you went to see the orchestra play, you would see the colors above the musicians' heads. So when he went to study art, he decided to do it in a different way, in a way that showed what he was hearing and seeing. And it was different from other arts, and people didn't really know what to do about it. And they would look at one of his pictures and think, well, what's that supposed to be? Now they call it abstract art, where it doesn't necessarily look like something. But Kandinsky said about his art, it doesn't matter what it's supposed to be. How does it make you feel? So you can go to museums and you can see art by Vasily Kandinsky, and then you can look at it and think, this is how it makes me feel. This artist, Marc Chagall, was another person who decided to do art a different way, how he viewed the world wasn't necessarily how other people viewed it, but he thought of it as lots and lots of color. And also he did a lot of people flying, animals flying, a lot of stuff up in the sky. But he grew up in a small village in Russia, and nobody else understood the things he was seeing. But his family loved him. And even though they didn't understand his art, they sent him to school. His mother sent him to school so he could learn. But the art that other people in the class were doing was different than the art that he was doing. There he put somebody flying. He had flying goats. Again, the art instructors just weren't sure about this. But then after a while, Marc Chagall got to go to Paris, and then he saw, oh, this looks like the things I have in my head. Look at all the light and the color and the flowers. This is beautiful. But then war came and he had to leave Paris. And when he was away, that's when the war came, he still painted. He had to come to the United States for a while, but then he also started doing new kinds of art. And he continued doing art all through his life. And eventually he did stained glass windows too. So now you can see Marc Chagall's art in museums, but you can also see it in churches and synagogues, because since he kept changing and doing arts, different kinds all through his life, you can go and see his art in more places. And I like that he kept changing and he kept doing art for his whole life. Now, this is a woman, Frida Kahlo, who was born in Mexico. And she loved art too from the time she was little, and she got to draw a lot of things, but she also loved animals. And a lot of people have dogs and cats. Well, Frida also had a parrot and a fawn, little deer, that was her pet. And when she was little, she got very sick and she had to stay in bed for a long time to recover, but she would breathe on the windows and draw. Did you ever do that? Where you mist up the window, she would draw that way. So she always liked using her art to make her feel better. And then later, when she was a little bit older, she got into a terrible accident and she had to recover from that for a long time. And it made her feel a lot of pain for the rest of her life. But she always used her art and her animals to help make her happier and to feel better. So she had dogs, like a lot of people do, but she also had turkeys and spider monkeys. When they were good, she would hold them like a baby. When they were bad, I think she just had to get out of the way. So even if she wasn't feeling well enough to get out of bed, her animal friends would be around her to help inspire her. And she ended up drawing lots of pictures of herself and all her animals. So artists can have inspiration from a lot of different things. And I like this story, this Viva Frida book, because the artist who did this, Yuyi Morales, was inspired by Frida Kahlo. So she made a doll of Frida and of her parrot and her animals. And that's how she did the art for this book. So this is a very short book, and it's in Spanish and English. And it's imagining Frida saying, I am. I search. There, she's looking for her monkey. And I play, because Frida thought it was very important to play, to give her ideas for her art. And even if she was feeling too bad that she couldn't get out of bed, she could always dream. And like Marc Chagall, she dreamed of flying. So I like this book because it shows that artists can inspire other artists, and then they can inspire us. Now, this woman, FUJIKAWA, was born in California, but her parents had come from Japan. And when she was little, she drew too. So if you are somebody who likes to draw and do art, do it as much as you can, because maybe you're going to grow up to be an artist too. You're already an artist now, but maybe you'll keep doing it. So Gia drew all kinds of stuff when she was little. But then when she went to school, nobody else looked like her. So she was kind of lonely. The other kids weren't necessarily very nice to her. But when she got to high school, she had a couple of teachers who realized she was a very talented artist, and they made it possible for her to go to school. So she was able to go to college to study art, even at a time that a lot of women didn't get to go. And then she got to travel to Japan, where her parents had come from, and then she saw lots of inspiring things there. The beautiful kimonos the people were wearing, beautiful flowers and colors. So she did a lot of art. But then the same war that made Marc Chagall have to leave came, and Gio had actually moved to New York from California by this time, and she was working at Walt Disney Studios, but her family had to leave their house. And that made Gio feel so sad that she didn't do a lot of art during the war. She just wrote letters to her family in the camp where they had to stay. But then, when the war was over and she felt happier, she started drawing lots of the kids she saw in New York. But when she went to the library, she didn't see books who looked like the kids she was seeing. She didn't see people in the books that looked like the kids she was seeing outside. So she decided that's what she would do. She would do drawings like that. So she did drawings of babies, lots of different babies, and they're so cute. And they look like all different people that she saw. The publishers at the time, this is in the early 1960s, they weren't sure about this. They weren't sure about putting babies who looked like everybody in the book. But Gia said, no, I think it's really important. I think we're going to do it. And so finally, in 1963, her book was published called Babies, and people loved it. Everybody loved it because there were pictures of people who look like everybody in it. And if you are interested in these books, you could do in her illustrations and the books that she did, you can do what I did. And there's books that the other county libraries have. So you can look at that book on babies, and you can look at her other books too. And Mary Blair, like I said, I thought I never had heard of her before, but I didn't know her name, but I did see her art. So she was another one when she was little. She loved to draw, and her parents made sure she had lots of art supplies. And she loved to draw with color. She always liked bright colors. And she loved to travel. And then when she got a little bit older, she went to school. She won a lot of prizes for her artwork. And then she married another artist. And she went to work for Walt Disney Studios. And her job was to draw the art before it became movies. So she would draw the first pictures, and then the animators would use her art in the movies that you may have seen, because maybe you've seen a dog named Lady that she did for Lady and the Tramp, or maybe you saw a little elephant named Dumbo. She did the first artwork for that. Then after a while, she heard that Walt Disney was sending some of the artists, like her husband, to South America, so she asked if she could come too. And she loved visiting the countries in South America. She loved all the colors that she saw. And she loved all the people that she saw. So then when she came back, she did more artwork. She was newly inspired to do art. And she did art for Cinderella. So if you've seen this, you've seen Mary Blair's work. If you have seen Disney's Alice in Wonderland, you've seen Mary Blair's work. If you've seen Disney's Peter Pan, you've seen Mary Blair's work. And if you've ever heard of the It's a Small World ride, then you've seen some of Mary Blair's work. So these artists are doing things that a lot of people, we can still see it today, thanks to all the wonderful art that these people do. So I hope you will enjoy these books. You can check them out from the library, and I hope they will inspire you too to keep making art. So thank you very much for joining me this week, friends. I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.